Hello, welcome to Monetizing Innovation. We have a special guest, Angela Chamberlain, today. She's an executive leader who thrives at the intersection of strategy, operations, and transformation, helping organizations turn complex challenges into sustainable growth. With a strong track record in building resilient operations and high performing teams, Angela brings a disciplined yet people centered approach to execution. She is known for aligning strategy with real world outcomes, enabling organizations to scale effectively while maintaining clarity and focus. Join us as we explore leadership, transformation, and what it takes to convert vision into measurable impact. Thank you for joining me today, Angela. It's quite the pleasure. And I know we've had some discussions before, so really excited for the audience to get to know you a little bit.
John, thank you so much and good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here to join you and your audience.
Well, it's great because I think with your background, you really have done so much great work. And when you look from the work that you've done from strategy to measurable impact, there's a lot of organizations that articulate strong strategies but fall short on results. Where do you most often see the breakdown and how do leaders correct?
Sure. Well, before I jump into that, I guess I just wanted to kind of frame my background and the lens that I like to wear as it differentiates from the lens that you wear, right? So we had a discussion about this not too long ago, and I, call myself an AI and automations consultant, and there is a consulting, very much so, a consulting part of the work that I do. But I think what differentiates me from, say, for instance, some of the work perhaps your peers or yourself that you do is that I do approach it with strategy in mind, but I am very heavily involved in the implementation process of whatever I end up teasing out of my strategy consultation. So there is this element of strategic outlook and looking at, working with clients and helping them figure out where they want to go. But then I also lay down the actual work and help fulfill the work, create the systems, the tactical things that they can actually do to get them from, say, point A to point B. And so I think to your question about where breakdowns happen and how to fix it, I think most of the businesses that I work with tend to be in that 10 million and under range. And I work with a lot of local services businesses. And so I like to think of them as the Main Street business, right? The C company, plumbers, CPAs, and professional services. And usually it's not so much that their strategy doesn't fail. I think it's their translation of their strategy is what fails. They don't have that strategy problem. They know all the strategies. In fact, they may have too many strategies coming at them. What I help them discover is where a system could come into play to actually translate that strategy into something. And so there's plenty of great ideas, but if nothing is connected to a system, if a client is telling me that we're having a hard time with sales, is it because when a lead comes in, there is a breakdown in follow up? And sometimes that's really exactly where it is, right? So opportunities are existing everywhere, but no one is really owning that opportunity. So if I can help them get to that place where they say, well, I can own that opportunity because you're right. The phones have been ringing. We haven't been doing a good job of converting those phone calls. So those are the things that I help with.
And I think that's so powerful, right? Especially for that group of business owners, right, in that 1 to 10 million range, because, they may not have the systems, right, that a large organization might have. And yet they have, a very effective business plan, but it is a little bit of the systems to help support.
Yes, absolutely. It really is. And there is that discovery process is usually something that I'm not really part of. So I like to say that sometimes the people come to me when the pain has gotten just too much, and I think the work that you do is really helpful because you actually go through that discovery process of, hey, have you noticed that you're in your way? And then, you kind of get them to that point where perhaps they've made that realization. But most businesses that I work with and who've come to me, less of my work is about that discovery process. A lot of my work is, I like to compare it to the person who, they got their gym shoes on and their gym attire on, and they walked through the door. They came to the gym. And those are the folks that I usually are working with that are saying, "Hey, I'm ready for a workout. I got here. Help me out."
I think that's a great description, right?
Yeah.
It really is, and I think that's what's really powerful about some of the work that you do is you really meet a lot of basically the folks where they're at, right, and then look at how to improve their operations.
Yeah, absolutely. That is exactly the work that I do. Yeah, and I think that with the work that I do, because there are some technical aspects to the work that I do, like understanding AI, understanding automations. And for a business owner that bootstrapped their own business from the ground up, we've all kind of been there. We kind of kick and claw our way and figure out our own system, however that may look. That can be tech heavy or that could be with a sheet of paper and a journal. Just depends in the business that you're in. However, the businesses that I'm working with that are, looking to level up, they're looking to capture more of their leads. They're looking to make more revenue. They want to grow. They have to come to this realization that that sheet of paper or perhaps that old Google sheet might not be able to keep up and meet they might not be able to keep up with the goals that they're working towards.
No, I think that's such a great point, and I think often too when folks are at that, I kind of think of it as an inflection point, right, where it's kind of that founder's trap. You know what you need to do to get to the next level, but you're still responsible for driving so much of it, right? And unless you can get some systems and also delegate to some of the folks that you're working with, it can become a huge stressor and a challenge.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to hand the keys off, right? I know you see it every day in your work, so I feel like at times I'm preaching to the choir.
But it's so true, I think, with what you described, right? And I think it's trying to help business owners lead through that complexity, right? Where you can help them. They're trying to develop those competing priorities, but they may not have the infrastructure or the systems. And that's, I think, a big part of your work.
Absolutely. I think a big part of my work is educating my clients, the business owner, on what's possible, right? So let's give you the example of if they were using a sheet of paper or Google Sheets for the longest amount of time, but perhaps they're juggling that with some other system and they're sort of piecemealing their systems in their own way, in their own work process to make sense of all the information that they have. And I think every one of us has been there. Every one of us. Some of us are, like Excel savvy or PowerPoint savvy, and others it's, tell me to do anything else besides having to do that. It's okay. Like, I'll run a marathon, just don't make me get into a PowerPoint presentation. But if I can show them where we could take friction away and perhaps it's already in a toolbox that they have access to, then even better. Because what I'm noticing with a lot of business owners that I talk to is it's not more tools that they need. Sometimes actually, or more software or more. What I hear often, and I just got off of a call with a mortgage broker yesterday, was we have a CRM. I hate it. I have to pay for it because it's what came with the business that I'm in. It does everything but nothing, right? It does everything but nothing for me. And that's really what I'm getting is like it's doing way more than I need. And then the thing that it actually does, I don't like it. I just don't like it. It doesn't translate to my brand. It's not reflective of me. It's not speaking to the audience, but it came from these legacy systems of what the mortgage company purchased. And in those types of businesses, these high compliance businesses, if there's a system that gets sold, it's just sort of there forever. It's very hard to move and migrate from those high compliance systems to try to remove that, move that to a newer system because of all the rules and regulations around that industry. Now, this particular mortgage broker came to me and said, we are adopting a new one and we are very excited. We've got four that we're choosing from and we're very excited. They all have their plus and minuses. There are certain ones that can integrate and others that cannot integrate. But when it comes to this integration piece, I really want to tie in things like voice AI agents and transcription services that are going to help me and my staff for note taking. That's high value for him. And he's saying, I need help figuring out which one of these CRM systems can integrate the best with that feature because for him, that feature is so high value, right? That's the one high value system, that one high value feature that he really wants to integrate into the system. So I'll be helping him with that. And that's so nuanced and so specific. But I think the era that we're in now is, again, it's not necessarily give me the Ferrari or Salesforce.com that can do everything. What he's saying is, I need a few things that are critical to helping me with my business, and then that's all I want. And then it just stops, right? It's not give me everything. So you have to just, and it's an exciting time that we can be there. But in that example, that client gets it. He gets it. He's like, we could do more with less, and he's saying, I love it. I'm here for it. Yeah. And then there are other business owners who have no idea what's even out there and available. And so, at least for him, he's got a sampling, if you will, of what he can build and how he can build this own system in house that will be adopted by everyone and used by everyone. Because too often I hear, I got sold this system when I first started my business, no one uses it. And that's just the frustrating part. But we don't live in that era anymore. We live in an era where we can sort of turn SaaS software upside down, if you will, and really think about what it is that we want out of it and then build it from there, as opposed to the other way around, which is we just get sold the whole thing.
No, I think that's so important too, and especially when the owners can help express, right, what the real problem is, because then that gives it a defined opportunity, right? We can actually help them engage with what their pain point is.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you can just add more value to whatever it is that you're actually building for them.
I'm curious too. Especially with all the work that's been going on with AI, right? And we hear it all in the news, and it's become a buzzword that I think sometimes we don't always understand what AI truly is. Do you find that that's an area to work with some of the clients to help express, how they can use it to solve their problems versus, AI replacing things per se?
Absolutely. And I think that's the number one education speaking point that I have with anybody who is just starting to explore or even consider AI. And I've had this conversation countless times in the last 12 months. The 12 months ago, when I would speak with somebody about AI or automations, there was quite a bit of resistance, frankly, and they were really in two camps. They were camps of, I don't care, or the camp of, I've heard about it, tell me more. And that was exactly 12 months ago. And I'll tell you that the opposite is happening now, today. Now I'm getting phone calls and they're saying, hey, I remember you mentioned that you were the AI or the automations gal. I'd like to have a conversation with you. And what it is because I think in the last 12 months, we have all discovered that it's here to stay. We've all seen real practical applications in ways that it can help. But my fundamental question that I have, the fundamental conversation that I have with clients or friends or anybody that starts talking to me about, well, is this AI really a thing? What's happening here? I really want to just take them back and just say, AI is not new. It's not. If you have a smartphone, there's been AI all around you all these years, and smartphones have been around for almost 20 years. And, if you have a bank account or a debit card, AI has been around. Machine learning has been around. If you make appointments with the doctor or do prescriptions, this is all AI and automations that have been working in the background. And this has been very much available to large corporations, large companies, and small companies as well. And so this is not anything new. What's new is the way we communicate with it, is the language model. That's what's new, newish, right? I'm married to a developer, and so I like to say that he understands the computer speaks, the zeros and ones, the lines of codes. He understands that, and so he can use that knowledge to get a piece of software to do something and execute for him, right? So he understands that speak. But for the mere mortal like myself, I can't do any of that. I can't do that. But with a language model, now I can dictate and speak, and that language model can understand what I'm trying to express, and then it executes it in code. That's what makes this very much more understandable for most of us. We can understand that because we're human beings, and language is universal to us, right? So now that really opens the floodgates for possibilities, because you can think up these ideas, say something, and then the machine can understand it and execute it for you. However, that being said, when I talk to most people and I say when we speak about AI, I think most people kind of, at least the ones that fear it, I think their minds automatically go to a autonomous general intelligence, which I would say is, if you think of it as a pyramid, AGI being really at the top of the pyramid. And these are just robots that don't need you. They can just learn and think on their own and figure out problems and iterate on their own. It's the Terminator 2. It's the, yeah, like Westworld, all of those things, right? I think as people's minds go to. But that's really at the very top. And that's what everyone talks about if we're moving towards AGI. We're not quite there. And most people that I speak to, I do have to tell them that when we're talking about the language models, we're talking about baseline generative AI, which is what most of us are using, what we are chatting with. And so if it's ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, etc., we're looking at generative AI. You kind of speak to it, it spits something back out based on what it thinks you're trying to tease out, based on some kind of knowledge base. Generative AI. Great for marketing, great for copywriting, great for creative writing. So really good for things like that and those repetitive types of tasks. And then there's that middle section, which is agentic AI. And I think this is the year 2026 is the year of agentic AI. So last year was the year of, okay, the models are here. Every model was getting faster, smarter, reaching PhD levels, etc. And everyone said, that's great. Now the next question is, what can it do? And that's where we are right now in 2026, is really diving way deeper into agentic AI, which just means I could give it some prompts and it can go out there and execute for me. And that's very different from just saying, what do you think about this? Or help me write my next blog post or my next social media post. That is really agentic AI, and agentic features is what is going to define this year. And I also believe that the businesses that adopt agentic features in their workflows and in their businesses systems are going to begin separating themselves from the rest of the pack in a good way, because now we will be talking about how they can actually use their agents more or less as part of their labor force.
And do you see that as being part of the great leveler when it comes to businesses then, especially those that can start adopting these tools?
Yes, absolutely. Because It is a huge it's a huge lever. And I think for any small business owner, wherever they can save time, make more money, and cut back on any resource spending, those are going to move. Those three elements will always move a business further if they can find those areas. Anything that can help them cut costs, save time, and make more money. And agentic AI and agentic tools help with all three of those things. All three of them.
Absolutely. When you think also too, right, for a small business owner, it's a big commitment to bring somebody on to your organization. Where if you can actually do some of the agentic AI, not only are you saving cost, it's also that commitment that you're able to basically flex a little bit more, right, than you would if you're bringing a person on.
Yes, absolutely. We're not, I don't think we're at that point where it solves all the problems, right? Like it's just not. And I'll never tell any of my clients it's going to solve all your problems. You get bugs, systems need updating. Things like that are very real and it happens. And so I stay on board with my clients to help through those things. However, it's inexhaustible. If you want your agent to work at 3 in the morning and to pick up phones in the morning, it will, and it will never complain, and it will never get sick, and it will always be pleasant, and it will always be consistent. So there are certain tasks that the agents can do that they're just excellent at, right? And that's the one thing that I also do let my clients know is that when you're thinking about building these agents and building these agentic tools, you just want to give them one task. Let's not try to make this our VA that we give 10 to 12 tasks. Okay. That VA is probably really good at five of them at best. Okay. And then with the remaining seven, they're somewhat okay with the other three that you ask them. And then the remaining four, they just hate to do. Nobody wants to do them. Okay. So I like to tell them, like, don't make your agents like your VA doing too many things because then the output that you'll get out of these agents will be similar to that. Just make them be good at one thing, and that's okay. And what's great about where we are now is that you can duplicate agents or you can make one agent just really good at picking up the phone. One agent that's really good at just drafting emails and following up with your clients. One agent that's really great at just writing copy for your blog or for your newsletter. Separate them because we are in a place where we can do that now. Yeah. Don't have them do all three of those things.
No,
Because
exactly.
right, because there could be some hallucination, right? Like that will still happen. So yeah, so I think these tools it's are really powerful, and I think that is the biggest differentiator between last year and this year. Last year, a lot of people were still talking Gen AI and strictly Gen AI and what Gen AI can do. This year, everyone's talking about what agentic AI is doing for them for productivity and how to just advance their business and move them forward.
When you think about some of the businesses out there too, and like you said, a lot of businesses, right, they've gotten really good at doing their specific thing. A plumber does great work at being a plumber, right? An electrician does a great job at being an electrician. At what point do you recommend some of these folks actually embrace the AI if they haven't already? And how do they get started in that process?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I see where I see it making the most sense right up front are in repetitive, mundane tasks. And I'm talking things like someone has to repeatedly format a presentation or some kind of pitch deck that has to be done over and over and over again. Then we have to PDF it over and over and over again. These are repetitive and very, it doesn't take a lot of creative thought from a human being. It's just quite rote. It's just repetitive. You just do it. Most of these tasks are not necessarily high ROI types of tasks either, but they're just operational. They're just these operational have to do's. I just have to do them, right? And those are great examples of things that, like a founder shouldn't be doing and should be thinking about, where am I most impactful as a founder? So if you are a founder visionary and you're great at marketing and converting sales, you should not be doing PDFs for several hours a week. That's a low ROI on your time, right? Or you should not be chasing invoices, emailing for invoices to get paid back. Invoices are important. I'm not saying that, but we need to find another system to automate that so that can happen more automatically for you. So things like, number one, I like to say that there are these 5 areas where most small businesses that I work with, I tend to see little system leaks, right? And these areas are, first off, just right off the front, when a customer, it's really just clients looking for new customers. I'll often say, we need more new customers. I said, okay, I'm going to pay for leads and I'm going to do these types of campaigns and these strategies. I'm going to try them out. I'm going to pay for the leads. I said, great. Google clicks, etc. I'm hiring an agency. Great. And one question I ask is, do you have a CRM? Well, yeah, kind of. I've got a sheet here somewhere. Well, when was the last time we actually worked that CRM? So, CRM, and most of the times we don't. Okay. We're just looking for people. So database reactivation is one of those simple ones. It's right there. You have them. We all have clients. They all like, know, and trust us because they paid us at least, or if they didn't do business with us, they're warm. We had some point of touch with them. That's a really simple one where if we put a system around database reactivation, there's a good chance that your next customer is already with you, is already in your ecosystem. So that's like one of the first areas that I see a leak or an opportunity. The second one is in their reviews and reputation management, especially in local services. It's one of those things where every star counts. Right. And then the responses to the reviews also count and help your Google profile. And oftentimes, what I'm seeing is that the businesses that recognize this up front right away in the beginning tend to be the ones that have a very sharp growth, say within the first 5 years that they're in business, because they really capitalized on reputation management. That one is a simple one. And I think people think that the business owner has to be on the backside of that Google review responding to it. And that's just not the case. We can build a system around the reviews. The third one would be the speed to lead problem. And I think a lot of local services businesses know this. If you do not get back to a potential lead or customer in 5 minutes, that's the golden window. You may as well, every minute that goes by, it's just dead. And I have people that tell me, oh, it goes to voicemail, and I call them back the next day. And I want to ask them, how's your conversion rate on that? Probably pretty low. They're dead by that time. That lead is very dead. So setting up some kind of voice AI agent to be able to interactively pick up the phone, number one. And if you are a business and you're paying for Google space to be on that first top 5, you better be picking up the phone, because if you don't pick up the phone, the algorithm is knocking you down. Because the whole point is for you to pick up the phone if you're going to be ranked on page 1, right? And if you don't pick up the phone, it does start to hurt you. But I think we're living in an era where we order something from Amazon at 8 a.m. and we get it at 4 p.m. this afternoon. We're in that era. This is just the time that we're living in. And so I think it's the same when we're making phone calls. We're expecting, if we don't get the problem solved, then we expect acknowledgement or be able to get something on the calendar as soon as possible. Voice AI agents are excellent tools to do that on your behalf. The third the fourth area where I see things that are kind of, that are leaking would also be in just multi-channel communications. So we are all living we have different platforms, or LinkedIn, social media platforms, etc. Business owners think that they have to hire a marketing coordinator to respond to these comments and leads and create content for them. And those things can be easily systematized because those are also just other touch points to be able to bring revenue in and to help your brand grow. And then I'd say the fifth area would be in website conversions. You and I touched on this. I was around since the website was invented. And I think we've all treated it as a digital brochure to tell people about us. And I think what you'll start seeing in the next year or two is that more of these websites will be having agentic features built into them. So they'll be able to answer lots of questions and then book appointments for businesses. Or in some instances, just close the deal. So websites are becoming more like employees, like salespeople that can close deals. So those are the 5 areas.
No, that's fantastic. And I really appreciate you sharing that too, because I do think, right, we're in this age where things are going faster, not slower, especially with regards to technology. And it can be a lot for a business owner to keep up with, right? I think this has been such a great conversation today, Angela. I really appreciate your insights. Are there any other key things that you'd like to share with the audience, especially given the background and what you just shared there, I think was so helpful?
Yeah, I think for anyone, whether you're in business or you're not in business, I think my main concern for everyone is really, and I would say I would speak to professionals, I would speak to tradespeople, I would speak to artists, I would speak to anyone that's alive right now, is just spend a little bit of time every day to just dabble, play with AI. And I am not here to tell you that, you've got to be as diehard about it as I am. I'm not telling you that. But I think everyone needs to dabble in it in some kind of capacity. And I think if you begin with, if you're totally and completely adverse to it, but it's okay, that's okay. But even if there was something near and dear to your heart, like a small passion project or a small little side hobby, play around with it and see what it can kind of show you and open you up to. Because I have also been around skeptics, right? Like, a year ago I was talking to my husband, who I told you is a developer, and he was very skeptical about everything I had to say about AI. And now it's just his companion for his work, but I'm telling you, 12 months ago, it was really a point of contention to speak about AI with him. I have people that I know that are artists that also, right, in art form, it could be very contentious as well. But then they've sort of said, well, I can actually make more art now that I have it. And I can explore different genres of art a lot faster. I can go from 0 to 1 a lot faster. So I implore everyone to give it a try in some sense. Many of them are free. The language models are a great place to start. You don't have to start with these advanced systems that I'm talking to you about or using it for a business case. But I think if you've had ideas in the past of, hey, I'm thinking about building this or making this or dabbling in this side hustle and side business, they are just great tools, great resources that can help get you from a concept to something actionable with just a few prompts. It won't be perfect. It'll be kind of funny what they come up with when they're first starting to get to know you, but I do implore everyone to use it in some kind of capacity because it will be the largest disruptor in our generations now and going forward.
No, absolutely. And it's amazing how much capability it does bring to our productivity, to the work we do, to the art we do. So I really appreciate you sharing that insight.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. This has been great, John. I appreciate you allowing me an opportunity to share that.
Well, no, thank you so much. And I'm really excited for folks to be able to get in touch with you too after the podcast. So we'll make sure in the write up we have your LinkedIn and that information and or your website, and we can take things from there.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Angela.
Thank you, John. Have a great one.
You too.
Bye bye.